No problem, no problem. So once I had transitioned the 0 to 1 or experienced the 0 to 1 journey, uh, I was part of an acquisition which I saw, and Series J, a company which acquired us. And then I had seen the functioning of a Series J company. And then I realized the N number of mistakes people make, whether it is seeking funds, whether it is executing on the funds, or whether it is executing on the vision, right? And in a matter of about 18 to 20 months, I kind of figured out by talking to many, many leaders in the company that how not to function, and how to, continue to stick to your vision, mission, and goal, and kind of figure out a way to grow sustainably. It's far more important to grow sustainably than, have those peaks and ebbs, right? Um, this gave me an opportunity to kind of share my experience, understand that this is the way things have to be built. And also I had to kind of, um, what do you say, kind of transition into a consultant role. That was one of my dreams, and have a consulting company, which I do have right now. These things got together, and then I told myself, let me kind of put these things together and see what is the kind of problem that I want to solve, which is in the scaling issue, right? So then I kind of wrote the framework, which took me a good 1.5 months, about 10 to 15 revisions, I would say, in terms of the framework. And once I had the framework in mind, then it was all a matter of putting the experiences or mapping the experiences to this framework, which was probably the toughest part. And then kind of calling out several examples out there from successful companies or successful founders who have scaled companies, not just 10x, but probably somewhere around 1000x, right? Because there's plenty to learn there, which I think as founders, as young entrepreneurs, we are so focused on our product, our business model, that we fail to look at what has already been successful out there. So I wanted to bridge that gap, bring in my experience, bring out what needs to be done and what should be avoided, and then put together a checklist. And then what I did was I kind of covered it all, wrapped it all up with some success stories, where I had to kind of look at how this checklist can be improved in a much more better way, so that founders who are starting to scale, who have already clocked their 1 million, how do they go to 10 million? Or those who have already clocked 10 million, how do they go to 100 million? How do they grow 10x, right? In a matter of 5, 6, 7 years at best. But they need to grow 10x. And me coming from the tech background and transitioning to the business background gives me that small leverage of understanding how tech founders tend to think, right? Because once upon a time, when I was growing the consulting startup, which I had about 5 years ago, I was extremely, extremely close to what I was doing. And I used to hold it really, really close to me, and never to let go. Oh, this is my product. Oh, this is a fantastic idea. I shouldn't tell this to anybody, and things like that. So tech founders tend to do that. They hold the product really close to them. They don't want to let go. They say, I need the IP. I don't want to let go. And they haze their decisions with many, many things that can be easily avoided. And
A quick
it's
question,
sorry,
Abraham. I don't mean to
please.
interrupt you because you're doing
Yeah,
such a great job. How
yeah,
does that play into delegation? Because I noticed that a lot of your book is about learning how to delegate, which I think is
absolutely.
very difficult for founders, right?
Extremely
Because
difficult.
we are all so passionate
Yeah,
that we want things done right, and we end up doing them ourselves,
yeah.
and that cripples us in our ability to get orders of magnitude. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I totally agree with you, right? So I think the non-delegation part, Andrew, I was just coming to that, actually stems from this passion, right? Because you would have built that product in or service in such a, I would say, in a dedicated manner, in a diligent manner, that you don't want anybody to screw it up when you kind of go there and ask somebody to do the sales and marketing. And that kind of irks you, right? It kind of annoys you to the extent where you will look at somebody and you're like, shit, whom did I hire? Let me do it myself, right? That's the first thing you got to think. And then you kind of start doing that mistakes, or that kind of snowballs into many, many things. And finally you suddenly realize that everything is coming back to you invariably. And this passion in which you build and how you build, and not looking at something that is, you need to look at a product or a service that it solves a problem and that it's creating an impact. And it has to be profit making. These are the three pillars I would say you need to look at any product or any service out there. You can't look at it from a point that this is mine. The moment you do this is mine is when practically every single mistake starts coming into place, right? So that's probably the most important thing, Andrew, to address your question. And once you look at these three pillars of any product, is when you will know, okay, this is what I need to do right now. The sales and marketing needs to take care. Let me create a small boundary for them that this is what I don't want. The moment you say this is what I don't want, the outcome becomes more or less clear. And in terms of hiring, you need to probably look at how people gel with your purpose and your values. That's probably the two most important thing, right? When people say hire for attitude, not for skill, they essentially mean how does a person map up to these two things? One is your values, one is your purpose. These two mappings is what attitude is all about, right? Because you have built a company and a business on a certain way and with a certain attitude, with a certain value, with a certain impact in mind. And the same impact, the same values has to be shared by any leader you hire, which is when your delegation will be absolutely perfect to the core. Okay. So what happens is many people make the mistake of not mapping these two things, and they take a hire for attitude in face value. They don't map to these things, and they say, okay, this guy's attitude is great. Let's just hire him, right? And suddenly you see this overperformer is kind of starting to dictate things, changing your vision, and demanding for more money and things like that. Although he or she is performing, and suddenly you're like, where is this going? I'm not
Yeah, the
expecting.
demanding for money doesn't take long, right?
It doesn't take long.
When they
And
realize they have value, right? So it's an
yeah,
interesting dichotomy. Wow,
yeah,
Abraham, you're just brilliant, and I've read through this book. I've already learned in just the first 30 pages how to delegate better. you know, what do you think about passing on that delegation? So, like I learned that you need to delegate, but you need to verify that the
yeah,
people that you're delegating to, this is the step everybody misses. They're great at delegating. They're not great at verifying that the
absolutely.
delegated person understands what they're going to do and are doing the right things. What do you think about that, brother?
No, I think that's bang on, Andrew. That's the first thing I would probably say at the outset. Now, verify has a certain definition, right? So, if you are able to delegate with the outcomes very clearly, and you set a cadence to check and balance, right? So let's say initially, this I learned through the military, right? So initially, when you delegate, you need to monitor a lot more. You need to set yourself a lot of time in terms of continuous monitoring. And as and when things start refining, as and when things start taking shape, is when you start loosening the rope, right? And you loosen the rope to such an extent that at some point in time, over a period of 6, 8 months, or probably 10 months, you actually can jump the ship of not verifying, right? But initially, the verification factor is really, really high, and it starts coming tapering down slowly over time. And you need to figure the taper down curve. It's not going to be same for everybody. For some, it's going to be 3. For some, it's going to be 6. For some, it's going to be even a year, right? And everything depends on how well this person whom you're delegating to is again mapping up to your purpose and mapping up to your values. So I hope that answers the question, Andrew.
I answered it. It was a fantastic answer. And I think we can all agree that without delegation, you can't grow a company, right? Like you're the entrepreneur. Everybody here is a really high performer, right? Or we wouldn't be here because we wouldn't be going to COBE, right? So we're all high performers and we have those same expectations of our team, but at times, they fail to meet that. So how do we meet people at a place where they can perform and also maintain our standards?
Right. So I think probably I would say I learned this post-acquisition, right? So till then we were not there as yet. It was something that was coming instinctively to me, which people call as goal setting. Now, goal setting does not imply that you give somebody a revenue goal or something that is quantifiable and leave it there. It doesn't work that way. Goal setting is something where you actually say, look, you are aligned to growing this company in a certain way, and this is your specific role. In this specific role, this specific piece is what I want you to solve. Uh, and you tell me how you want to quantify it. You don't go about quantifying it, but you will ask the person whom you're delegating it to, saying that, please tell me how you want to quantify it. And if you get a satisfactory answer, I think you should go ahead and trust the person, right? Because it's important that when you delegate and when you're asking for performance from somebody, it's important that the other person responds in a manner that you kind of will be able to trust the person. It's very important. That's the first piece. Second piece is you should give ownership of a certain metric to that other person, which is when you will be able to say, okay, the measurement is like this, and this is what I want you to achieve in the next 1 or 2 or 3 years, right? So then what happens? You are actually setting a framework or a boundary in such a way that the person whom you're delegating to and the person whom you're asking for performance knows what he or she needs to do. And they also know how their actions are going to be measured. And if they know these two things, definitely you can expect performance, not just delegation and not just a way of doing work, right? You can definitely
Wow,
expect.
what a great answer. I want to shift gears a little bit because I've been through a few pages of your book. And by the way, guys, this thing covers everything. Honestly, you have to get a copy. The link is in the chat. It's $20. Everybody here's got $20. Buy a copy. But I also want to talk a little bit about how you broke down the customer journey into awareness, consideration, purchase, retention, and advocacy, and how that really plays into, like, right, really the customer journeys are what we're concerned with when we're concerned
Hmm.
with not only sales but retention. And
Yeah,
what are your
absolutely.
thoughts about the customer journey?
Absolutely. So it's something like this, right? So whenever a company starts off, the first thing the company is trying to do is acquire some customers. Okay. Even before building the product, acquire your customers. And when I say that, it essentially means that you are just sending out Chinese whispers amongst your known crowd to understand or validate your idea. These people are your first customers, right? Like, for example, what Scott did, right? So it's just that they may not, they're not paying customers. I understand that, but they are definitely advocates to your idea. So that is something that somebody needs to understand. So the awareness factor is where I would say the most important aspect the founder needs to know. Because if he or she doesn't know how the customer buying behavior is or what the customer's pain point is, no matter what your product does, if it is not solving the pain point in whichever way the customer wants, you will not be able to move forward. That's point number one. And insofar as customer retention is concerned, right? Everybody wants product-led growth. Okay. So did you all know I learned a new fact? The new fact is that if you're able to increase your customer retention by a matter of 10%, do you know your profits can jump all the way to 30%? Okay. So that's very important to remember, right? Everybody
Yeah,
wants
it's
product-led
really
growth.
expensive to get a new customer, isn't there? There's a
It is.
customer acquisition costs, and so when I see a lot of SaaS businesses the first starting up, first thing I tell them is you have to focus on retention, like today, right? Like I
Yeah.
know you're selling like hotcakes, but if you're not focusing on retention now, you're
Yeah,
gonna you're gonna tell me about it next quarter. So
absolutely. So if you can imagine the customer acquisition cost, like Andrew told, something that's going up continuously, right? It always starts above. If this is zero, your customer acquisition cost is always above. Okay, it never starts from zero. Remember this. And the moment you start spending on sales, marketing, and all these things, you already have a bump up. So the customer acquisition is continuously upward. It's never going to come down. Okay. The only way it is going to hit a plateau, right? It's not going to come down, like I said. It's going to hit a plateau at some point of time. And that is the point of time you need to think, where is your revenue cutting across and moving up? And the only way the revenue curve is going to cut across the customer acquisition cost curve and move up is when you focus on customer retention. Okay. Because customer retention, like I said, for every 10% of customer retention, you're going to gain 30% profit share. And that is what is going to push your profits and revenues upwards beyond the customer acquisition costs. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck at a huge gap between the revenue curve and the customer acquisition cost, which is why most of the new age companies or funded companies have that gap, right? You see them clocking multiple crores of losses. They've not been able to solve the problem. Did I get that right, Andrew?
Yeah, you got it 100% right. Listen, I want to shift to scaling, and like I said, I've had the benefit of having Abraham's book with me, and at the risk of plugging it mercilessly, I'm going to say everyone here today needs to buy this book, really, because it's just, books are encapsulating somebody's entire business experience in a couple hundred pages. And what you will learn from Abraham in this book are expert journeys, really intelligent and believable thoughts. They're not far strung. As you read them, you'll go, holy cow, I could have delegated dinner. But I want to talk about scaling smarter and not harder. And this is
Right.
just some brilliant stuff. I'm going to give you a quote from Abraham's book. Scaling is not about doing more, it's about doing more with less. And so tell
Absolutely.
me, Abraham, about scaling smarter.
Right. So it's like this, right? So uh, let's say you had to travel from place A to place B, you had a limited budget. What would you typically do? You would go ahead and probably hire a bike, right? Or you'd probably decide to walk or take the public transport. But let's say you are flushed with money. What would be the first thing you would do? You'd pick a plane or a private jet, right? So when I say scaling, it's all about building a system which does not require your intervention. Okay. Now, it's very important to understand this. The system starts from the customer. The system does not start from how you run a business. The system starts from the customer. Okay.
Freaking hallelujah, brother. I'm a Christian, but hallelujah. It starts with the customer. Could somebody just like play that on rewind? It starts from the customer. Brilliant, sir. Brilliant.
So the system starts from the customer and it ends with the customer. Remember this. Your business is somewhere in between. Okay. So let me just call out the basic questions you need to answer when you build a system, right? How does the customer learn about your business? This is all about marketing. Okay. The second most important question is, how does the learned customer buy from you? This is all about sales. You need to figure out your sales enablers. You need to figure out what makes the purchase damn easy. 3 steps, 5 steps, 4 steps, 7 steps, doesn't matter. But it has to be straightforward, easy. Okay. The third important question is, how will you deliver value and how will you deliver your promise? That's where your business comes in. Okay. Till
Gold,
then, it's only
baby.
marketing and
That's
sales.
gold. Seriously, guys, that's gold. He just wrapped it up in like 5 sentences.
Right?
Wow.
The fourth important thing is, how will you continue to add value and support your customer? It's important that you get a feedback from the customer about whatever you promised. Am I continuing to add value? Will you continue to pay if I give you more value? That's something that you have to understand from the customer, right? The last important thing is, how will you enable retention or referrals for these customers? How will you convert them to loyal ambassadors? This is where the marketing piece comes back a full circle. Okay. If you're not able to answer the last question, your system is not complete. And you have to figure out a way to answer all these questions. The moment you answer all these questions, you built a basic system. Okay. It starts with the customer.
A money machine, essentially. You have built
Absolutely.
the money pump.
I'll take that. The money machine. Let that be the next book. Right? So I think that's how it is, Andrew. Because unless you build this system, you're not going to scale. Okay? Because in this system, what happens is you're clearly telling people these are the 5, 6 things I need to do perfectly bang on. I need to nail all these 5, 6 aspects. And I need clear owners for these 5, 6 aspects. That's it. The moment you
Yeah.
define owners, the moment you map the metrics, the moment you say these are the 5, 6 things which happen to be, which needs to happen in my business, then you can look at scaling, expanding, inorganic growth, everything. Everything will be functioning perfectly nice.
So, Abraham, there's so much to share from this book, and I know I'm handicapping you and giving you only 20
That's
minutes to
okay.
present it, but I really can't recommend this book enough. But I want to talk more like around chapter 11. You talk about financial planning for growth, and one of the things I've seen with a lot of angels is the financials are poopy. They're not good. And as we all know, I gave a presentation last month where I said your financials need to be immaculate,
Yeah,
immaculate. Like
yeah.
I saw a startup company this month. This is no joke. Okay, through another agency
Mhm.
that had projected to lose more money than they were raising in the
Mm.
current round by 50%.
Oh
And
boy.
they didn't, what happened was the CEO didn't look at the financial slide, which, by the way, the CEO needs to look at everything. Can you
Yeah,
talk a little more about financial planning for sustainable growth?
absolutely. So this is again another company, like Andrew said, I was just about coaching, right? So I asked this person, okay, fine. I have given you a roadmap for 10x growth. Now you tell me how much are you willing to spend? He said, I have no idea. I said, no, you need to have an idea. So he said, no, I really have no idea. You need to help me. I said, okay, let's say 10% of your profits is meant for your growth. Okay. That's when it started hitting him that he needs to plan for growth. What happens is most of the time you're planning for operations, you're planning for customer acquisition costs, but you're not planning for growth. Okay. Your cash flows are all skewed. And cash flow, of course, is again a very, very different chapter. But end of the day, if you want to grow, if you want to sustain, figure out a way to allocate a part of your profits for growth. It's as simple as that. It could be 10, 8, 20, 30, doesn't matter. Okay. And also, very important, identify your key people in the organization. Make sure you keep them happy. It's very important because at the time of growth, if you lose one or two key personnel, it'll stall your growth. Okay. These are probably the two important lessons in terms of scaling, Andrew.
Well, there's so much money spent in training and developing people. You don't want to be training and developing them for another organization if you don't have.
Absolutely.
Brother,
Yeah.
you've been so kind and generous with your thoughts, and by the way, I should tell everyone to reach out to Abraham directly, but buy the book. It's really great. The last thing I want to discuss, just kind of a final point, is how do you manage rapid growth without losing control? I think
Ah.
that was just a fantastic read in your book. And as we all hope to be successful, but once we get successful, right, and we start scaling,
Yeah.
that's when a lot of problems come. Can you help us with that?
Yeah, sure, Andrew. So I think one of the most important things is to be able to define to ourselves as founders as to what we envisage as rapid growth, right? Um, you can probably reach another place through Hyperloop. It doesn't matter. But it's very important to understand, should I really be doing that? Can I manage that? That's probably the first important question to answer. People want to grow, become a billionaire probably tomorrow if I ask them. But it doesn't work that way, right? So you need to hit a certain sustenance level before you actually set the ball rolling for rapid growth. And probably the most important two things, I would say, the two key factors for rapid growth is one, your goal setting ability, and two, the system's performance, whatever you set as a system. If you're able to do these two things correctly, map the right people to your system, I am sure you'll be able to grow rapidly without actually worrying too much, because the people will take care of the system and the system will take care of the metrics and the metrics will be taken care again by the people. So it's a small cycle of things that is happening there. And these two things, if it's working in a good cycle, that is when you'll be able to achieve rapid growth without actually, losing control, right? That's probably the answer there, Andrew.
Just fantastic. I want to give you a few minutes to sum up. Are there some final thoughts that you'd like to share? And before we do that, I just want to flash the book again. It's the
Oh, there it
Escape
is. There it is.
Founder's
Yeah.
Grind.
I,
Trying to
I
get it
can
in
I can
my
help you there too. That's my
Escape
copy.
the Founder's Grind.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
good read, guys. Literally, listen, we all have a lot of conversations with people, and 80% of what they tell us is dumped. This book is chock full. You're really going to find it very helpful. I strongly suggest it for everyone. But I just want to give you a chance, Abraham, to kind of do a wrap up. And I know it's hard on a 200-page book to give us a synopsis, but we'd like to know, like, really, where are you, who are you trying to reach, and
Hmm.
how are you trying to help them in
Hmm.
reaching their goals?
Absolutely. So I'm in okay. I would say I'm reaching out to tech founders specifically. Of course, any business works, but specifically, I'm trying to reach out to tech founders who are stuck probably after their first revenue growth cycle, that is 0 to 1 cycle, and whoever is looking at scaling their companies, right? Because during scale is when the stretch is really, really hard. Okay. I work like 18 hours a day for a good 4 or 5 years, and I know what it means to kind of stretch yourself. And I have figured out some of these systems that it should be in place if things have to be working without you. Okay. And when you go take a vacation, the business has to continue churning money out for you. Okay. So my important probably 2 cents, or the way I would summarize, is that the book is all about how do you scale, what kind of systems you need to build, how do you delegate, right? And how do you go about financially making sure that the scaling is not a puzzle that cannot be solved. Okay. It can be solved provided you know certain things about your business, provided you're aware as to what you need to probably build so that the sustainability factor is in place. Once you're there, I think most of what the book brings out is some inspirational quotes, some of my experiences in terms of scaling, and some of the mistakes which people do while scaling. And lastly, I think almost all the chapters conclude with an action plan and a checklist that's extremely useful for any founder who's looking to scale the company by 10x. Okay. I have called my profit culture program as 10x in 5 years, but of course, you can actually scale much faster provided you have a system in place. Right. So that's my 2 cents, Andrew.
Hey, Abraham,
Brother,
I have a question. Can I ask?
Definitely.
yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
This is regarding delegation, right? I founded a company not based on the problem that I'm trying to solve, but rather
Mhm.
on the other way around, the skills that I have, and I how can I leverage my skills and make money out of it. So that's how I founded a company in the corporate gifting space, right? And I looked out for a co-founder who's really good at his work, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now I realize that there is a mind shift difference. Like I have a
Mhm.
rich mindset and he has a
Mhm.
king mindset. What that means is I am willing to delegate because I don't want to get into it, right? But he
Uh-huh.
has a mindset that he doesn't want to delegate, and that is where we are suffering a lot. We are growing at 1x But you
Oh,
understand what I'm saying. So he doesn't
yeah.
want to hire the people. He wants to keep everything with him, but he's really good at his work, right? So the entire company was found based on the fact that I used to work in a corporate world. So I knew I use my network, and I use my network in the banking sector to get the financing for all the work orders that we get. And his role as a co-founder was to connect with the customers, source the products all over the world, and get it done. Now I realize after a few years that he has a king mindset. He doesn't want to delegate, right? And I am happy to delegate because you understand, my
Yeah.
mindset is to make more money, and his mindset is that's his identity in the
Yeah.
society, right? And because I
Got it.
founded a few more companies, so that is not my own core identity. So how do I solve this issue? Delegation, I mean, when hiring an employee is fine, but at the
Yeah.
core, as a co-founder, when have two different mindsets, how do I go about it?
Got it. Do you want me to break an egg or do you want me to coat it up for you?
Break
Sugarcoat
the egg, brother, because you need to break the egg. Let's just rip off the Band-Aid.
Okay, so okay, let me break the egg. You need to find another co-founder. There's no doubt at all. That's point number one.
Okay.
Point number two, you don't have to let go of this person whom you found, rather found a gem in terms of individual contribution, right? So what you can do is you can probably give him a board position or a directorial position, all right? Identify a right co-founder who is probably matching up to your values and purpose. When I say that, it's essentially matching up to your mindset.
Right.
Uh, and that's not an easy task, but if you're able to do that, that's when you should probably give him a board position and tell him that he can continue doing whatever he wants. This is his team. If he continues to do whatever he wants, you're perfectly fine. But in terms of looking at certain things, you can say you are overloaded and you need a right co-founder and somebody whom whom you can trust in terms of taking the company forward. And that's probably one way to look at it. Of course, like Andrew said, break the egg in a much more harder way. You'll have to just let him go. But I don't think that's probably the way.
Listen, it comes sooner or it comes later. But when you have somebody that's only interested in their ego, and I'm not saying that's what your founder is interested in,
Yeah.
but that's trouble. Okay. So he either needs to change or he needs to move to another role for sure.
And
And
I'm
you should
happy
let
to
him
have a
know.
conversation with both of you. Me or Andrew, either of us are happy to have a conversation with both of you.
Yeah, I'm always the hard guy, so I think you might want to go a little softer, but you have to ask him, what do you want to do? Do you want to grow a business or do you want to grow like an Instagram following? Which are we
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
here?
Or you can pose a question, what's his end game? Like Thanos.
Are
Okay.
Right.
there any other questions for Abraham? I mean, he
I do.
shared so much. Yeah.
I do
Let's
have one.
let's
Yeah, yeah. So, Abraham, impressive,
Yeah.
impressive. What you have been talking about the book. It seems like
Thank you.
a
Thank you
great
so
book.
much.
I will get it definitely.
Yeah.
From your own point of view, what do you think is the most dangerous narrative or story that is completely embedded in the startup ecosystem that you think your book is trying like to unlock or to dismantle, something like that?
Seeking funds when you don't need it.
Got it.
Okay. Everybody wants to scale. Everybody needs funds. And everybody seeks funds to scale technically. But the moment you seek funds when you don't need it, in the garb of wanting to scale, is when probably you're going to fall flat. Okay, makes sense?
What did you think of that, Sebastian?
Well, I don't know. I will have to believe. I just need to believe him and read the
Can
book.
I
That's
believe
all.
him? You got to read the book. This guy knows what he's talking about. If you read this book, you'll be,
That's it.
dude, if I'd had this book 20 years ago, I would have not wasted 20 years.
I really wish I could do that, Andrew. Thanks a ton. Thanks a
Seriously,
ton.
guys, everybody comes across really difficult problems in starting in a startup. Come on. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And everyone tries, but 80% fail. And I think when you look at a book like what Abraham has shared with all of us, it's mastermind stuff. Again, I know I've plugged the book several times, but again, escape the founder's grind. Let's get a copy. Abraham, any closing thoughts about your book? Are there any other questions from the group?
I'm good,
I have
Andrew.
a question.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Subramanian.
Yeah, Abhiram, I mean, very insightful thought about the delegation part that you just mentioned, right? Um, I have a startup, and for a couple of months we have been bootstrapped, and it's just me and couple of my founders and a few developers, right? Very lean, actually.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
We have reached a stage wherein we need to scale now.
mm-hmm,
And we have figured out that I'm the CEO, but I'm
mm-hmm.
good at corporate sales, but the product that I have is a SaaS based product, so I
Okay.
need to do that. There's a different pedigree that is required for an enterprise sale and a a B2B SaaS sale.
Yeah.
So I've been considering hiring a sales director, but it's a huge expense for me, and
Yeah.
I'm in two minds whether I should be learning how to do
and
SaaS
I have
sales
to
or to
tell
hire
you, you
somebody
should
in this
hire
field.
two and fire one, by the way, brother, because it's going to be just like that. Sales director is there's an old saying I like to tell people: salespeople are good at two things: selling the boss or selling the product. Just keep your eye on that, Paul.
No, that's absolutely it's a very good point, Andrew, because I spoke to a couple of folks way back in December, and that time we were starting up, and it turned out that the guy actually sold himself to me without me realizing what just happened, right? So since then I'm a
Right.
bit scared and wary about hiring, but I do understand the importance of having a good person on that side. So I wanted to know, I mean, how do you tackle such kind of a situation?
Right. So there are two approaches here, Subramania. One is
Yeah,
you hire somebody on a fractional basis where you tell that person who's pretty senior, you'll find a lot of fractional sales guys. Tell them only on
yeah,
commission basis, no retainer. Okay, this is one way to look at it.
okay,
These are tougher people to get, but you will be able to get them if you do the right hunting and probably spend a lot of time. The other way to look
sure,
at it is find somebody extremely enthusiastic at the mid level, coach them, get them up to speed, show them the carrot that they'll be promoted to a sales director sooner or later if they are able to achieve A, B, C, D things as part of their goals. And if they're able to overshoot their goals, they'll be able to probably take a piece of the company as well as part of their ESOPs, right? These
Yeah,
are
I
two ways.
always go with the younger, hungrier,
Yeah,
rather than the senior,
yeah,
people who say they know everybody. As I
exactly.
said, they'll sell you or the boss. And so, like, they'll sell the product or the boss. And what I mean by that is they'll come back and sell you. Like, I can't sell this. Right. Like, that's when like, you're out. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Not what I hired you for. So, really, the junior folks, I think, are more aggressive
yeah.
and they're ready to, take some risk and they want to prove themselves. When you get a really senior person, it seems like a great idea and you're going to pay a ton of money to have them. They're going to want 150 US for salary. And that's just enough that they don't have to do anything else. So Abraham's advice is great. I don't know if you can hire somebody on commission only, but I
Yeah.
think if you go further down the stack, you'll find people that can grow and they have the core values that they'll align better with the core values that you express. That's my opinion. And I'm an
Yeah.
old guy, so I'm not ageist. I'm just saying the younger the better.
Yeah,
yeah,
cool. Thank you. If I'm assuming
absolutely,
no more
yeah.
questions, we have two more
Thank
presenters.
you so much.
So Andrew, I'll hand over the reins
Yeah,
to the.
Abram, just put a cap on this thing. Put a capstone on this book. It is so incredible. And again, I reach out to everyone to get a copy. Listen, no one can read Abraham's mind, but you can if you buy this book.
Absolutely.
All right.
Totally. Thank you. Thank you. That's fantastic.
Great. So, Abraham, would you like me to move on to our entrepreneur presentations?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead, Andrew.
Okay, so Kailani, it's your turn. You're up. Kailani is the CEO of Abram. No relation.
Ambaram. It's Ambaram.
It's a design and creation product collaboration tool tailored for creative professionals, particularly those in retail businesses with multiple offices and global sourcing operations. I've had several conversations with this young lady. She's really smart and she's working her heart out on this thing. So, Kailani, with no more delays, I'll hand it to you. And if you
Hi,
need to share a
everyone.
screen, let me know. If you got a deck, I'm happy to
Yeah,
share
I
the
got. But I thought I'll just talk about it, for a while, and then I can
as
issue
as you
slides.
wish. It's your time.
And great. So yeah, I just want to introduce myself. I did my COBE in 2017, and the startup that I'm actually doing right now is a result of the capstone that I did, right? So when and I have a design background. I worked for almost 26 years in this field. I was before COBE, I was a absolutely creative design person. Didn't have much, I would say, idea about how the entire business runs, and I think I got that exposure there. And the second thing that I actually did as a head of design studio for my company, I actually came back from my first session and I just spoke to my CEO. It's like, you know what? I've been running this brick and mortar studio for a very long time, and I think the future is in cloud. We should do and take everything that we do in the brick and mortar as designers. We should take everything into the cloud and we should build a system. So that's how it started. He funded the project. I mean, that was a project at that point of time because we wanted to take feedbacks from Nordstrom. I mean, our customers were Nordstrom, American Eagle, and Taylor, Anthropology, and a lot of other US brands. So I had the chance to show it to them and take real-time feedback. So when a lot of people, and I'm talking 2018, right? So a lot of people resisted, but the interesting part is Amazon loved it. In Seattle, right? We were supplying to them. Amazon loved it, and Samsung loved it. Samsung also has their own, in Korea, they have their own apparel brands. So that gave me an idea that, people who are tech driven or the brands who are tech driven as base are the ones who are going to take this forward. To cut the story short, I think COVID happened, and I again went back with the purpose to now learn technology. So I learned Python. And in 2021, I quit and started Ambaram. Now, in 21, for 6 months, I was doing customer research and understanding, trying to reach out with just the Figma files to know whether I'm fundable. And I was a part of, a STEP program in Berkeley. So anybody who wants to look at it, please. And they via that, I got an investor request. And I then knew that I need to put money in this, right? And he told me that, Kalyani, come back once your MVP is ready. Now, of course, again, 2022, I put in the money, and 2023, we kind of launched one awards for our collaboration tool. And, but then I didn't know how to sell, right? I don't know how to sell tech product. And that's where the delay happened. And now, today, we have customers. And I also pivoted. And it's interesting. The pivot is in healthcare. The pivot is in adding Gen AI product. And so twice I've pivoted, okay? So very, very important to know what the customer wants, where the money is, you would know, trust me. If you love your product, you won't see it. You want to just see what you want, right? However, if you see what the customer wants, you will see the money on the table, and it's your choice whether you want to take that or not. So I went ahead with healthcare recently within 2 months, and I'm getting like, how to put it, it's I think 125K promise from a government of India, which is very, very difficult to get, okay? Very tough to get government grants in India. And in fashion, we're getting interest from one Italian customer, which obviously I'm not taking because I think the term sheet was very, very, investor driven, and it didn't felt right.
Yeah, we
But at
talked
least I
about
got
that, didn't we?
yes. You might want to, Andrew, expand
Was
that.
I helpful? Was I helpful in reviewing that term sheet?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's one of the reasons why that I think I took a call, and few more people who have given me the feedback not to go ahead. And one of the good thing happened from our group is we have JMPK. He is from I think Spain or something. I don't know. He messaged me, he DM'd me, and he gave me the number of Skydeck Italy. And I realized their terms and conditions are far, far better than the ones that I'm getting here with Stylet. And it's a great, it's one of the best accelerator that I can get into, but I just chose not to. And I probably would apply to Skydeck in the fall.
Yeah, it's
so the many decisions you have to take as a founder.
Yeah.
So that
Kehlani, did you find value though in the group interaction when you needed help and reviewing term sheets and such? What was that part like for you? How did the COBE group participate in helping you to do that?
I think one of the things that happened practically, I'm going to tell you, two people, you reached out, you spent at least 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and you know what? Explaining me. And as a founder, it's very important to understand what an investor thinks of about the term sheet. Whether it's a good term sheet for the founder or it's not. I never go to a founder to ask whether this term sheet is good or not, because it's going to be the feedback would be same, right? So, this is my thing, if you want to grab something, go to that particular clan and take the feedback, right? So that's when Andrew walked in, and then we spent 1.5 hours, gave me inputs, not just spoken, but written, and told me what is right in certain points and what is not to be accepted ever, because it's too strong for investor.
Most favored nation, right? And that other thing with there was some
no, there are
other
few more things that I decided.
And Abraham was also instrumental, right, in getting you into the group and helping you. How did Abraham help you?
It was like initial, very, very initial days when we kind of spoke to each other. Oh God, I was struggling with sales at that point of time. So Abraham, after 4 months, I can say that I have closed few deals. Okay,
Fantastic.
so thank you so much. And rather, I closed the deal, like 3 deals, like in 2 days. I've been talking to them for 2 months, and before 31st, I told them that I want certain money to be there in my bank so that it can reflect in my balance sheet and, stuff like that. And they did. So at that point of time, Abraham,
Go ahead. You go ahead.
So no, that's exactly when he told me the pathway, at that, no matter how many, trust me, no matter what you read, how much you do, the real feedbacks come from people who have experienced it. That's the key.
Fantastic. I wish I could frame that and put it on my wall. The real feedback comes from customer experiences. That's great.
Yeah.
So that's what I did, and of course he told me few things, and one of the second question that I asked, which I'm still looking for, and as my ask is, I'm looking for resellers in USA. Like enterprise sales, Subramanya. I just want to, even address the issue that you are having right now with sales. I have gone through exactly the same thing, rejected all of them, Because if you don't show me work, I'm not going to listen. And they're great people, okay? They come at, and I know them for 10 years. They have delivered what they said, but they have not delivered for me. They have not delivered for my product, right? So everything changes at that point of time. So I gave them the option of commission based. They did not. I mean, I told, the best way to not spoil a relationship with someone and still move on is that, hey, you know what? There's a cash crunch, and we're raising funds. The moment the funds come in, I'm going to look at you. You're buying time. Trust me. That's what I did. You got to buy time. You don't want to, make them wrong or, stuff like that. You get what I mean? So that's what I did.
Did
And
you want to show us a little bit
Absolutely.
about your application, or did you
sure,
not
sure. I'm
want
going to just quickly, I just wanted to showcase,
Yeah, give us a
talk
quick
about the
run through so
experience.
people get a feel for what you do, because it's really amazing. I've seen the
Yes.
technology. Kehlani showed it to me, but this is really
Sure.
cool stuff. Check this out, kids. Any of us that have daughters that are in the teen to 24 age, they're gonna love this.
So one of the questions that I want to ask before I start, uh, the shirts and the t-shirts and everything that you're wearing, when do you think, except Prashant, I don't want him to answer because he knows the answer. He comes from my industry. So when do you think a designer has started thinking? That's the question I want to ask.
About 3 years in advance.
See, what about others? Just guess. Say you're buying a Gucci, or say somebody's buying Zara. So when do you think the design team has started thinking about that dress?
I would still
Any
stick to
answer is what?
I still stick to 3 years.
Anyone less than that,
Just
more than that?
6 to 8 months.
6 to 8 months, okay.
3 months.
3 months, okay.
About a year in advance.
A year in advance, okay. Good. So we've got from 3 months to say 3 years, and I would say the correct answer is 1 year. And like right now, we're thinking summer 26 and 27 at the concept level. But before that, a designer is actually thinking 3 months ahead and 6 months. They're also valid, but they're doing different seasons. So 3 months ahead, Prashant, you can also kind of unmute and just add your points because you're the business head.
Yeah.
For us, yeah. So
You are
Prashant, you
right.
want to go ahead and quickly explain?
You are right, Kalyani. So it all depends on the brand which you are working. So if you take Louis Vuitton or those kind of brands, so they may be working 2 years, 3 years in advance. When you come to fast fashion brands like H&M or Zara, so they would take 6 months to 1 year to come up with a new collection. So so still more value brands, so they work in 3 months advance, 3 to 4 months in advance. So that's how it depends on what kind of brand you are, and then uh, how is your system is set up.
And Prashant, you want to talk about how the brands actually segregate their buy? There are certain things that they buy late, right? Late change and stuff like that. You can also talk about that. The guys who
Yeah.
buy, say, 1 year ahead are also buying 3 months ahead for the same season, right?
Yeah, so see, nowadays fashion quotient, so it is reducing. So many people are moving into core and basic stuff. So where nearly 30 to 40% of the range will be core
Mm,
and regulars, and then nearly 50 to 60% is fashion. So these
absolutely.
fashion brands, so they work 6 months in advance and do the bookings. So for doing the booking 6 months in advance, they will work 10 months in advance, so they can create the samples, everything, and then they can show and then do the booking, and then place the order. So
Perfect.
nearly.
I think we've got the idea.
So,
Thank you
Kaylani,
so much, Prashant.
just in the interest of time, why don't you take us through what your platform does and how it
So should I just
revolutionizes?
straight away give a demo? I'll just talk about 2 or 3 slides. So what we do, what we have really got the problem here is a brand does not have their own manufacturing. That's what I want to tell you. They are the ones who are managing stores. They are the ones who are managing branding. They're spending all their money there, but they need clothes in their store, right? So what they do, they source to different manufacturing units in different countries. So I'm gonna just take an example of say Gap, okay, someone who's doing multiple, and it's a big brand doing all kind of stuff, not the couture brand. I'm not going to touch that right now. So Gap has many offices. They have a lot of manufacturers working, and for to get one style done, it takes a lot of work for the entire team to work together, from buyer to the manufacturer. Then it goes to the stores. So logistics plays a huge role as well. To cut short, and that's why we work a year ahead. But what the biggest problem with us is that we don't have, and what we do, we actually take feedbacks and all in Pinterest, in WhatsApps, and certain, multiple channels. Like we put our heavy files. Our files are quite heavy. So can you see the chaos here? Some people are putting it in Google Drive. They share the link. Some use WeTransfer. Prashant, is that true for you guys?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we have our own PLM. So we use PLM, and then
So
we
designers
download.
are actually using the PLM, or they just using WhatsApp on, like we're really talking about the real thing that goes on.
So WhatsApp, I'm not saying so. WhatsApp is very rare. So they use emails as attachments, and then yeah.
Okay, good
So
question. So what is
yeah,
the MB that is allowed in your emails?
MB 25 MB.
Yeah, but our
Yeah,
files are 700 MBs or sometimes,
yeah.
right? So what they do?
That's the difficult thing. So then they'll
Yeah,
use
that's
this.
what they do here.
Yeah,
This is where the world revolves. I'm telling you, people don't talk about it, but this is what it is.
yeah.
That is what happens then, because our files are like not 25 MB, they're 250 MB.
Hmm.
Right? So that's where that's the reason why I created Ambaram, and then of course it has a lot of advantages that I don't want to talk about right now. And the second tool that I pivoted is the Gen AI tool, where we're using our now the thing is, he said that we have to create samples and then it has to reach the buyer and it has to take feedbacks and stuff like that. Again, I just want to ask, I think Prashant, you can just straight away give the answer. What is your courier cost for budget couriers to send the
Couriers,
samples and stuff like?
uh, per courier cost you're asking?
No. Courier cost per month.
Per month. So it varies
Hmm.
from 3 to 4 lakh rupees.
I got it. Great.
Yeah.
What we do is, and usually for an exporter, somebody who's working in various different countries, it's actually 10 to 15 lakhs. We used to have 20 lakh as our
Mm.
budget. We
Yeah.
used
So
to serve
I
35,
just want
40
to give you
clients.
a 5 minute warning, Kehlani, where
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have one more entrepreneur to present. So
I
I
got
want
you.
you to get to the good stuff.
Oh, you want to see the good stuff. I got it. So this is how the garments get made in AI design made. And what happens is that you you don't even know that these are AI creation, right?
Hmm.
You get the feel, you get the idea, you get the collection. You've not, and it has happened within a minute. So now I'll just take you to the product. So it
Mhm.
happens within a minute. Oh, I had to open the. And and one of the best part is you don't need to courier, you just need to send. So in Ambaram, you create and you take feedbacks in one platform. That's us. Can you see?
Mhm.
We have all of these tools where, I mean, you say 5 days are left. It means
Mm.
we just need to know what is the work that has been given to me, or you have given to someone. Just read the
Mhm.
whole thing and start working. Somebody has commented, I know. So this,
Man,
what it does
those
is that,
bursting designs are so sexy. I gotta tell you.
yeah. Well, and the second thing that this is the most interesting part, and this pivot is what is selling for me immediately. Like the wall is taking time. Is the Gen AI tool where you can create a collection or a look immediately within a second. Create,
Mhm.
share with your team, take feedback, and be done with. You're saving on courier cost, you're saving on creation, right? So that's what it is. So just want to give her anything.
Yeah, I think this was the magic for me. Keelani showed me, she asked me to think of anything, and we put like 5 words into her system and came up with a whole bunch of designs for exactly that idea. Just magnificent technology.
So again, we have a lot of models that we've done, so it makes it easier. And again, I just wrote just a sentence that I want a summer dress for women, and then I used update prompt, so it becomes easy for any designer to, because writing prompt is difficult for a designer. We know how to use pen and draw. We don't know how to sit and write, right?
Got it.
So that's why I given them update prompt so that they can actually easily, they don't have to worry or get nervous. And then it's loading right now. So let's see. It is just, we don't like the color. We don't like the color, right? I've taken this up and then I'm thinking make it blue and white.
Yeah, what do you think of that, Prasthana?
So it'll change again, it's LLM based. So it'll change the thing, and let's see. I'm not checking too much on what is written, but one should. And then just, so we've made refinement easy, we've made prompt easy. And there's another one thing that I want to show where you put a picture, take a description, and again. So we're making it right for designers to create. Can you see? I
So,
just written make it blue and white.
let's put a capstone on this, Kalani. What does that company do, Abram AI, and how can you help designers to be more efficient?
Absolutely.
So
Andrew, I
Kalyani,
think
I
that's
have
I'm
a
sorry,
quick question
I
here. I
couldn't.
mean, does it also design the measurements?
You know what? I met a startup and it's called Aina. You stand in front of a mirror and it gives the measurements, which is great. So I'm going to meet the founder and see how can I, integrate that with mine. But the best thing is, and it's B2B SaaS, right? So it's not B2C. It's not TikTok. It's not, it's not going to be a fun thing. So Prashant, you want to talk about it because you must be using something similar already?
We work on seasons, Kalyani, as you know, and so we means as it is an internal brand and we are not presenting to the external brand like Gap and all. So it's in-house brand. So we means our designers create the concept and then they'll present, and from there they will get the feedback, and based on the feedback they're going to present the final uh, range. So it happens everything internal, and then from there we move into sample development.
Got
Yeah,
it. So how much time
but
it
you would
takes? How
have
many
to
months?
admit though that having the ability to just make some textual changes in your prompt and get visual images of your product is really valuable, right?
Yeah, that's exactly where I wanted to go because this takes at least 2 months, Prashant, 2 to 2.5 months. Here
Yes,
you can
yes.
actually create, and to create a sample like this, Prashant team will call for the fabric, will make sure that the tech packs are done and they'll get it stitched. Here I'm saying don't do anything, just show the first plan, call like they have to call someone like Prashant and similar members to see whether the direction is good. If they say it's a green light, imagine within 2 or 3 days, they're closing everything. And within a week, probably they'll have an entire look, right? So that's how from 2 months to a week, you can use technology and make it faster. And you're not spend
Well,
anything.
that's fantastic, Kaylani. I mean, I
Great.
was so impressed with the technology you shared. Would you like to share a final thought about your business and give everybody some pointers? Is there anything you can put a cap on this for everybody on the
So what
call?
there's certain asks that I have because I think we had someone who spoke about founder, Munbar, who spoke about founder. That's exactly what I'm facing with technology. This guy helped me a lot. He's great. I will definitely give him, I thought that he will be the CPO, but he doesn't want to come as a CPO. His vision and my vision are very different. So we are looking for a CPO, be it in India or be it in US, wherever, on an equity base. Second thing is we are raising funds. And the third thing is if you think that anybody in US or in probably in Europe, wherever you can get introductions for POCs, that would be great. Because our product is done, we are selling now. And I'll tell you who's bought. It's D2C brands. They have their own brand, but they don't want to spend too much. It's not that they don't have the money, but they don't have the time. Customer is changing fast and they want to give faster designs. So that's one brand that has walked in. Another is a B2B brand. They're very big exporters for Chaudhary Garments in US. So they also saw value. And the third is a couture brand. Now, this guy struggles a lot with inspiration. He just wants to experiment on the look before he actually starts making this sort. It's very expensive to make swatches. So yeah, we've touched all three.
So Keilani, you got 30 seconds left.
I'm
Final
done.
close on your like leave anything on the
I think
table.
probably, Andrew, she's looking for a few things. Kalani, what I would request is to, just call out these few things on the group. Say that this is where you need help, and you are willing to probably give a demo for anybody who's interested to understand a little bit more. That would kind of, get you in terms of getting some traction into whatever your ask is, right? And we can look at it, how to take it up as a group.
Got it. All right. Then.
So,
Thank you so much for listening. And any questions, I'll be happy to.
No, great job. And I'm glad you didn't take that deal that we discussed because it was terrible. And I actually told Kalani, like, there's a term in that deal that I've literally never seen before. And I think it was that told her, like, no, don't do this. And it's a big lesson to founders. People will offer you money, but the rights are worth money. And they had some rights that were really crazy. So Keilani's doing a great job of navigating the funding landscape. I think it was an excellent presentation. Let's all give her a good hand.
Thank you.
And next up, we have someone who's near and dear to my heart, Scott McDowell. Scott is the CEO of PetConnect. PetConnect is revolutionizing pet wellness by bridging communication gaps between dogs and humans through brain-to-computer interface technology, AI-driven analytics, and smart wearables. Scott's mission is to provide comprehensive, data-driven understanding of canine emotions and health, empowering pet parents, veterinarians, and researchers with real-time insights into pets' well-being. I should tell you, I've had a few calls with Scott. I think the world of him. He's just not only a dang good human being, but he's really the real founder kind of thing you want to see. Someone who's passionate, intelligent, and understands that we have to make money.
Absolutely. Fantastic, Scott.
So, Scott, without any further delay, tell us about PetConnect.
Well, thanks everyone, and appreciate the opportunity and appreciate all the advice, Andrew. How's everything coming across? Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
And
You're doing great, brother.
Audio's coming in. Great, awesome. Well, much like Kalani's journey, this PetConnect actually was born out of my capstone projects through the COBE program. And it was kind of two forces colliding at once. One was the loss of our beloved Italian Greyhound, while at the same time I was deep, at Berkeley studying emerging technology, discovered things like brain-to-computer interface technology. And so PetConnect was the combination of both of those coming together. And so when it was time to explore, is this more than just a capstone idea, right? So I wrapped up the COBE back in October. I was like, is there something here with this? And so started reaching out to, you know, former employees of prior startups that I've owned, reaching out to veterinarians, reaching out to neuroscientists. And sure enough, we just started digging deeper and deeper into the technology that's out there, into the problem space. And so, real quickly, what you see here is just the team. We've got over 80 years of product, UX, engineering, operations, sales. Myself, my CTO, Sean Johnson. We used to work together like 15 years ago, building mobile apps together. James Su, he's the head of product design and UX at a brand called Crunchyroll out of Japan. So he spends half his time in Japan, half the time here in the US. And then over the last 2 months, we've added Christina, who's our head legal counsel. Bryce Watson, used to work with him at eBay, and we built we pretty much hacked the eBay platform to turn it into one of the world's largest fundraising platforms. It's raised over 2.5 billion selling items through eBay. So Bryce is actually working deep into a platform called Palantir. So we have a full access of Palantir to build all of our machine learning, our generative AI. We're doing all of our pipeline data transformations in it. We just added Jesse Smith to help with ops and sales, and then Gray Torres is our neuroscientist. And as you notice here, every single one of us all have pets. Nearly everyone has experienced the problem statement and the purpose of why we're building PetConnect, and that is, unfortunately, too many loved ones, furry friends, companions, whatever you want to call them, they end up passing away too soon. And a lot of the research is showing that there's just a lot of undiagnosed tumors, other illnesses and diseases. And it's quite expensive to keep taking your dog or cat in for CT scans. You know, they're too fidgety to be in an MRI machine. And Smokey, who you see here on the screen, we probably spent 2,000 US dollars taking him to the vets, multiple vets, and they all said he was perfectly fine. I'm sitting in this room that I'm presenting from today, about 2.5 years ago, and he's collapsing right in front of me. Turns out he had an undetected tumor on his spleen. And so as I was digging deeper into brain to computer, non-invasive brain to computer interface technology, I started uncovering research article after research article. There's actually a fellow Berkeley alum named Akash who graduated with the neuroscience and comp psych degree there at Berkeley, moved back to India. He's launched a company called Diagnosis, which is able to detect cancer and other diseases in humans. So Akash is hopefully going to be joining us as an advisor. But what you see here is our entire ecosystem of a consumer app for quick observation. So you can just quickly say red, yellow, green. How's my pet feeling today? We'll eventually have community ties into it. And it will also allow the pet parents to be able to take pictures and video that we will then run through our systems. And so if you kind of go around the clock here, you got the connection app for the consumers, which will be going live with that in about 2 to 3 weeks. We have the non-invasive brain to computer interface technology. I've been using human-based ones, breaking them apart. I literally have like dozens and dozens of sensors that I've been ripping apart, hacking together. But we found a great partner out of Europe who has spent the last 20 plus years focusing on invasive as well as non-invasive brain to computer interface. And we're working with them to become a primary US partner to not only sell their devices, but we're leveraging their devices to record the brainwave activity through the EG scans. And then what you see down here in the bottom right, this is what we're calling our pet hub. This is everything that's built behind the scenes in Palantir, where we're taking health records, observation data that you put within the app, the raw EG data. So Bryce, the engineer from eBay, he's already built an entire pipeline in the back end using what's called the BID standardization brain image data structure. So we take the raw EG data, the frequencies, the channels, we parse all of that, and it helps us to create this kind of head to tail holistic view of what's happening with your pet. And then what we're doing is, oh, there's Tinky. I love it. And we got James Cameron on too. Is Babe Ruth with you there in the office, James?
Oh no, he's downstairs somewhere hanging out.
That's awesome. Yeah, so Bryce and team, along with our neuroscientists, they're every day building, and I have to point out, everyone so far, except for our attorney, is volunteering their time. They all believe in the mission so much, and they love the mission so much. They understand that I can only bootstrap a certain amount of this. So they all have their day jobs. They work, so they're working nights, weekends to help build this out. And then what we're doing is once we understand what's happening with your animal, we're then passing that up. And the next piece that we're going to build out here is the ACT portion. So you connect, you observe, you understand, and then we're building a veterinarian dashboard. And we're talking with a 7-vet practice out of Denver who's interested in being a potential not only advisor, but a first customer. And so that's kind of PetConnect, the ecosystem and our mission. And then the market is just absolutely massive. Right now, in the US alone, it's 156 billion, the total pet care. Globally, it's 300 billion. By 2030, we're looking at 200 billion in the US. And then when you take our TAM down to the serviceable addressable market, in the US alone, we're at 1 billion right now, projected to go to 2 billion. And then if you shrink that down to what is our serviceable opportunity, there's over 60 million households in the US that have at least one dog. When you add cats to it, it takes you over to 100 million households. And then there's over 130,000 veterinarians in the US. And so the market is just absolutely massive. And why we're pushing on this right now is because more and more people are, there's this almost humanization of our pets in our lives, especially with what all the data that we're discovering with millennials and Gen Zennials. They're often waiting longer to have kids. Some of them are absolutely foregoing having kids, period. And so their pets have become this, pretty much their children. And so we're, the beauty of this.
Yes, just ask my wife, because if there was a fire in my house, I know the dogs would get saved and I'd get left behind.
Yeah. And so right now, kind of where we are with roadmap and traction, as I mentioned, we've got the consumer app that's literally going to be dropping in a couple of weeks. We've already been successfully modeling epileptic data sets. So we've got about 14 gigs of pre-epileptic, actual epileptic events, and post-epileptic. Those are all of the EG signals. So we're processing those right now to within Palantir to run the model, to ensure the model is working, parsing out the raw EG, creating it, transforming it, and then giving us a generative AI response back. And then that's where we want to build the veterinarian app, because they can help supervise the learning of our models to ensure that what our models are presenting, it's being validated by the vets, so that when we go direct to consumer, we will have far more confidence in our models because they've all been co-trained with not only veterinarians, but a team of neuroscientists as well. And so the business model is comprised initially of monthly vet subscriptions, hardware sales, and then in the future, as I mentioned, we're looking at going direct to consumer with next year in 26 being a pilot because essentially what we got to do is get the price of the headsets a little bit cheaper than what they're doing going for now, So if
Yeah,
we
but
start
they're
with
not even, but I gotta say, they're not even crazy expensive now, right? Like they're
no,
like $1,000.
yeah,
It could
yep,
be worked out on a leasing program easily, right? For
absolutely,
$10 a month or whatever.
yeah,
But what you're bringing is you're allowing, owners to have a deeper connection with their pets and really understand kind of how they're feeling, and especially older pets, uh,
100%. And that's the
and,
beauty
and
of
how they're doing, right?
the EG data is not only can we detect pain, we can actually isolate it down depending on where you place the sensor and what part of the brain you're studying. We can detect chronic pain versus acute pain. We can detect emotional pain versus physical pain. And over time, what we want to do is build the models with enough training data that we can actually determine is the pain, for example, isolated in a certain region of the body. In addition to that, there's tons of other emotions that are available through these data sets, from jealousy in animals to hunger to frustration to excitement, happiness, all of the things that we experience as humans, where there's just uh, hundreds of published research articles out there where they've been able to detect very similar emotions within pets. And so, yeah, to Andrew's point, um, our vision here is to help identify pain early and at the end of the day, create healthier pets and happier families. With that, I'll pause for any questions or thoughts and comments.
Tinky just wants to say, I like you.
Hey, Tinky. Feelings mutual, kiddo. Love you back.
He's a sweetheart, buddy. He loves you to death.
Fantastic.
Man, I
So,
want to
I
give.
mean,
Yeah.
Scott, this is amazing what you're doing. I think you have a great broad vision to kind of bring to means, right? So, my favorite question, as usual, is when do you plan to monetize?
Yeah,
When do you
of course.
plan to turn revenue positive?
Yeah.
What's the revenue growth plan?
Yeah, great question. So monetization, looking at later this year. So as I mentioned, we're talking with a 7-vet practice in Denver. I'm talking to a single vet practice here. And so we want to work with them and offer them the technology at no cost at this point in time, just so that we can start validating the product market fit. And with that, myself and Jesse will be going out this summer and really hitting the pavement hard, pushing sales with anticipations of having revenue coming this fall. And then from there, scaling that with the vet practices. So with the vets, we're looking at a $299 a month price point. This becomes not only something that helps them better understand, their clients.
Generate revenue.
It's a revenue generator. Exactly. And so we're currently crafting the entire go-to-market plan for the vets, from brochures that they can put in their offices, working with them to figure out what would be their price point. Is it 150? So they would only need 2 scans a month to pay for it, and then they're profitable. And so the goal being by the end of this year, having roughly 50 to 75 veterinarians on board, which puts us at a couple 100,000 in revenue. And then next year, scaling that up to 300 vets, which would put us, closer to 700,000 to $1 million in revenue when you start adding the hardware sales to that, in addition to the subscription. And then,
And the hardware is coming down. I mean,
yes,
I was shocked to find that Scott, with his amazing negotiation ability, has been able to get the cost down to like $1,200 a unit.
yeah,
And that's 58% off of the retail price of that.
Wow.
But I would also mention, Scott is Mr. Pivot. I mean, we've had conversations where Scott has said, "Okay, that's it. I'm going on that idea." And I think if you look at the long haul and you say, how much would you like to communicate with your pet? You know, we all have our dogs, and they're happy or they're sad, and anytime you say treaty, right, they know exactly what's up, right?
Yeah.
But my point is, you know, I've seen a lot of friends and neighbors have dogs in the late stage, and they're suffering, and they want to know, you know, they care about, these are family members, not just objects to them. And I think Scott's really onto something here, and the beginning may be the veterinary cycle, which I think is great, and a very a small marketing effort, right?
Yep.
So it's condensed. You could probably do 10 shows a year and really reach everyone in the veterinary community. And it makes sense because veterinarians are constantly looking for other tests. I mean, who's brought their dog into a vet and thought it was going to be $100? It turned out to be $500, right? Because they the veterinarians are looking for tests they can run, and this makes sense from that angle. But I think in the future you're going to see a pivot to where we will all be able to communicate better with our pets through neurotechnology.
No,
Did I
absolutely.
cap on that for you, Scott, or what's that?
That was perfect, Andrew.
So
Scott, I have a
add to that-
question.
Go ahead, Kalyani.
Yeah, I have two questions, Scott. Have you, while you were planning your GTM kit, I just want if you can discuss with your team on white labeling your technology, because you are building a very complex technology, and maybe it can, you know, help someone else, and you can take a substantial money for that. So just think about that if you can. I'll come first if my tech thing works out.
I would just say, why
Government.
white label when you can black label, you know, when you own the brand. But
So
very
that's
good
one,
point.
and this, just think about it, because you have a white team. So just I'll speak with you separately, but I also need to go deeper into my healthcare you know, pivot. Let's see where it goes. Second, you seem to be very good with getting people on board. What's the trick there? You know them for
Almost
many years,
every
or
single it actually ironically, everyone is, except for Christina, our attorney. I have literally worked with everyone who has reached out. And so I started posting on LinkedIn, and I was hesitant about it, right? First I put it, you know, working on a stealth, you know, you can put the little stealth company on LinkedIn. And I was like, you know, combining a loss of
By the way, that makes you so cool, right?
And as soon as it was over the holidays, I was like, I need a logo. So I literally designed the logo in Illustrator myself. And then I put the logo up there and said, you know, and put the story of Smokey. I said, you know, we lost Smokey even after spending thousands of dollars to try to understand what was going on. Why was he acting weird? And then next thing I know, like just one person after another started reaching out saying, I love your mission. I love the passion and the purpose. Can I join you? And my response, I literally have like 3 more people I've got kind of in the waiting wings just to say, let us get more traction. And so, you know, I've just been very candid and upfront. I said, I can't pay you now, but I could, you know, obviously include you in kind of the founders equity pool, which I've been talking to Andrew about how to properly structure. I'm heading out to Berkeley next week to take the venture capital program so that I protect the employees. I create an offering that is attractive to the investors. But everyone you saw in that, from James Sue at Crunchyroll, he was an employee of mine many years ago. Sean Johnson was an employee. eBay, or Bryce at eBay, we both worked on the charity team. And, you know, they all were just like, you know, I got these day jobs, but it just, you know, it's a day job, just making some, you know, large institution that's already making billions of dollars more money. And I think everyone is gravitating to the mission of it. And then, as my wife says, she goes, but they're also gravitating to kind of your energy and what you're bringing to it as the leader.
100%. I think it's both. You know, for me, from Scott, He's just a fantastic founder. He's a believer in what he's doing, really dedicated and super smart. And I'd be one of those people waiting in the wings. And the only reason is I said, look, you don't need me yet, but when you need me, I'm here, brother. And what I love about Scott is how he takes feedback. You know, a lot of entrepreneurs, you can give them feedback and they just toss it out. But you can talk to Scott and he will really process what you're saying and try to figure out if it makes sense for him and his business. And I've enjoyed working with him a great deal. I just think the world of you, Scott.
Thank you so much. And yeah, and that feedback, I look at it as just another ingredient into a perfect recipe that we're crafting every day. And sometimes, you know, you're taking a little dash of this, a dash of that, and then it's figuring out what's going to work and being flexible. And so, yeah, hopefully those answered your questions, Kawan.
Yeah, great. And then best of luck with your course. And it'll be great if we can do a session of what you've learned.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, tell us what you learned from Jerry, because
Jerry,
that's
right? Yeah.
Anybody
I've
taking
heard
Jerry's
really
speed
good
or-
things about the course. I've heard such
Well,
good things
yeah,
about the
yeah.
course.
It's definitely realistic.
Yeah,
Okay.
good. I'm glad. Yeah, great. Thank
Uh,
you.
I think one
Any other
more.
questions for Scott?
So Scott, what's stopping you from going B2C? I think you have something already ready for B2C. I mean, this is
So,
just not asking you to spend any money, just say word of mouth. Maybe one or two specific features which people can use with the mobile
yeah.
and diagnose something as a first stop.
So,
What is stopping you there?
yeah, so in a way we are going B2C, but we're not going direct B2C with the EEG devices. And so that's why we want to get the observation app in everyone's hands, because we want to make it as simple as how, you know, just a prompt that comes down, takes 1 or 2 seconds. You know, for example, Andrew, Tinky, how is Tinky feeling today? Red, yellow,
Yeah.
green. If it's green, great. We just keep logging that every single day. And then as soon as they go yellow or red, we're going to ask more follow-up questions that will then be fed into the back end and into Palantir. We'll process that. But yeah, so we are going direct to consumer while we're going direct to the vets. There's the strategy and the roadmap is to get more of the scientific, the neuroscience data, and have large enough data sets across many breeds, across many different illnesses, so that when we do go direct to consumer, we're going to have a far more solid EG platform to offer them. And as I was talking to Andrew, the prices are coming down on this, right? The gentleman, Akash, that I mentioned, or one of our Berkeley alum, he just created the Dognosis hat that he's using to train the dogs there. But he's not quite at a point where he's ready to sell those on a mass-produced level. So what we want to do is get people into the PetConnect ecosystem using the observation app and still giving them value while we're building out the data sets, the data model, the science on the veterinarian side, and then have these two tracks kind of collide in 26.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that we
I
can
think you
start
could
doing
see a 50% drop even in your wholesale pricing over the next 5 years. And that's where I think this is pivot ready. I mean, right now it starts at the vets because the hardware is about $1,000.
Yeah.
But when you get it down to where, listen, my wife, honest to goodness, is really in tune with what the pets are feeling, as am I. But if you had in a device, I think you actually added a new field that I recommended, right? That was what would your dog tell you, right?
Yes, yes,
Not
yes.
only but what would your dog tell you? So you take your dog to the vet, the dog says, I feel sick. I don't feel well, right? Like, what can you say to that? Like, what better, commentary could you have to get treatment for the dog? So I think Scott's got a lot of pivots ahead of him, but he's durable, smart, very data driven, and I'm impressed. Anyway, Scott, I need you to put a capstone on this, to put a cap on this thing and roll us out, baby. What do you got?
Well, so I would just say, if you want healthier pets and happier families, that's what PetConnect is born out of. It's born out of love, compassion, and technology.
Fantastic.
That's a
Fantastic.
hell of a marketing pitch, bro.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you want happiness? I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for the opportunity today, and I will definitely be back after the VC course and happy to share what I've learned. And
Yeah,
looking
it's all
forward
right.
to next
You
month.
can come back and report your traumas. Tell Jerry I said hi. Because Jerry's tough. He's
Yeah.
tough.
Oh,
You're gonna see
Yeah.
what a beast is really like.
That's good. That's what we need.
Guys, look, it's been wonderful meeting with everybody. I know we've gone a long time today. Let's give it up for our entrepreneurs, Kaylani and Scott, who have done a great job today.
Absolutely
A lot
wonderful.
of it's a lot of stress, to do these presentations. And finally, let's give it up for Abraham, who has written a book that
Thank
shows
you. Thank
us
you so
all
much.
how to
Thank
do a
you.
better job of
Thank you.
managing our time, managing delegation, managing finances, and scaling without pain. Look, we can learn it ourselves the hard way, the $1 million MBA, or you can buy a book for $20.
20
Buy the
bucks.
book.
Buy the book. Yeah.
If there's nothing else, guys, I'm gonna wrap up this recording, and I just want to give Abraham a final spot to speak about his book and to put a capstone on the whole meeting. Abraham, would you mind?
Oh, thanks again, Andrew. I think everybody goes through the scaling problem, go through all the checklists, action plans, and things like that. But I think it's really worth it. Go ahead, buy the book, escape the founder's grind.
Buy the book.
Buy the book. Thank you.
Hey
Thanks,
guys,
Andrew.
any final comments before we close out? Would anybody like to share? Was there anything that we didn't catch or we didn't hear? How did we do as a group in sharing with you today? We'd love to hear your comments.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Abhiram, Kalyani, uh, Monor Hussain, and Subramanya Scott. So thank you for presenting your startup ideas. So it was the first time for me this meeting, and so a lot of value I got from this meeting. Thank you very much for all your help, Andrew. You were so much enthusiastic, and I love that. Also, Abhiram. So a lot of value that you're given in these 2 hours. So thank you very much. I'm glad that I have been part of this meeting.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
hey, let's see you again next month. Anybody else want to make some final comments?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say one thing that, it's great to have a community like this, right? Right? Because as founders, you are in a very lonely space, right? You don't have a
The
lot of people to,
loneliest space in the world, yes.
yeah. So you don't have a lot of people to talk to or run your ideas through, right? So when something fails, everybody has a thing or two to say within your team or, in your company. I think the pain is something that only the the fellow entrepreneurs can, feel. So, it's great to have a community like that.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Thanks for
brother.
your kind words.
Thank you. Anybody else before we close out the show?
Want to say
Okay,
thanks,
kids.
everybody.
Well, that's a wrap. And I want to thank our two entrepreneurs and Abraham.
Really want to
What a
thank
great-
everyone.
Oh yes, what a great show we had today, and I'll have this up on video in the next 24 hours, so you can all watch yourselves staring into the camera.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
And with
Have a
that,
good day, everyone. Have a
thank
night.
you so much for coming today, and we'll see you next month.
Yeah.
Hey, I
Absolutely.
sent out in the invite that you received, there's a monthly calendar invitation.
Okay.
Please sign up for that. And that'll make it easier for all of us so you'll have it on your calendars.
Absolutely.
And also, I want to let you know that we're reaching out for help in the group. If anybody would like to participate or volunteer to help us with some duties that we have in keeping the group together, we could use your help, and we'd really appreciate it. So please send us a message, an email, a pigeon, carrier pigeon, whatever. We would love to have your assistance. And good luck to you entrepreneurs. And as always, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me or to Abraham. We are here to help.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
great weekend.
Finally,
Bye.
I just want to bless you all. We are all in very hard times, and we all have different gods, right?
Yeah.
But in the name of your God, whether it be Ganesh, whether it be Allah, or whether it be Jesus or God, I want to bless you all today and tell you that the world will turn and you'll still be on it. So try to make it a better day for yourself, okay? Have a great day, guys.
Great.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.